Hi, welcome to Rules Challenge. My name's Carter Maxwell, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at the game Carnegie. Now, being of Scottish descent myself, I felt like I should try to say his name a little bit more like how he would have said it, which would be more like Carnegie, but every time I do that, people look at me strange. I could be sitting here with a copy of the game and say Carnegie, and people will be like, I have no idea what you're saying. So, I've given up on that. We'll go with Carnegie. And it's not like it really matters because he doesn't make an appearance in the game himself. As always, I got to give some explanation how this works because of the unique format. You're basically just going to be watching regular moves being made in a regular game, but I periodically just stop and ask legal or illegal, and your job is to figure out if what you saw during that turn had been done correctly. I only pause it for a couple seconds, then I go on and give the answer and some explanation. Before we get started on the challenge, I should mention that you'll be seeing a sequence of play that follows more closely with the rule book. If you played on Board Game Arena, what you're seeing here might seem a little strange because on Board Game Arena, just to make the asynchronous play go better, they have players take their actions and then they may immediately activate their employees. I'm doing it more like the rule book has it organized, where all players will take their actions, then all players will have a chance to activate their employees. I only point that out, not because it's a big deal, but that if you've only played online, you may wonder what's going on and think that I've missed a step. But it's just the order of steps is a little different in my video from online play. I think that's all I had to say, so let's go ahead and get started on the challenge. As you can see, the game is already well underway with all players having at least 4 projects out on the map already. And you can see from the timelines that we've completed 8 rounds so far. White currently holds the first player marker, so he'll go ahead and place the timeline marker. I'll just call that the gear from now on. White will put the gear on the human resources timeline, which means we'll have a income event in the east. It's White's turn, so he'll go first and return his employee from the east to his lobby. Then he'll gain income for his position on the transport track, and that will be $4. In addition to the $4, he'll get another 5 from his project tabs for a total of 9. And he'll also get a cube from his industry tab. Moving on to yellow, he'll also return an employee. And he's in the same position, so he'll also get $4 from the transportation track. He'll return that employee to the lobby. He'll combine the $4 from the transport track with another 5 from his tabs for a total of 9. And then he'll gain 1 cube. Now blue's up, and he'll retrieve an employee, and he'll get a new employee from supply. Blue will put the retrieved employee in her upper lobby here, as well as that new employee just gained through the income. And now for her tab income, she gets $4 and 1 cube. All the players have done so far is collect income, but I thought it was worth stopping here to answer a question that comes up a lot. And that is, are incomes cumulative? In other words, do you get income just for the space that you're currently in, or also for the spaces that you've passed so far? And the answer is, it depends on if you're talking about the transportation track or the project tabs. On the transportation track, you gain the income only for the space where your disc currently is. So in this case, blue gets a new employee for being on this space, but does not also get $5 for having passed these earlier. But on the project tabs, it is cumulative. So blue gets $2 from this exposed space and 2 from this one, and a cube from this exposed space. Now players need to resolve their human resources actions, and starting with white, he just has the 1 human resources department. He has 2 active employees there for a total of 6 moves. So he'll take 1 employee from the lobby and go 1, 2. And then another one, 1, 2. and another one, 1, 2, for a total of 6 steps. Yellow also gets a total of 6 steps, and he'll move 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. Blue has 2 human resources departments, but one is just the new lobby, and he has just 1 active employee here for a total of 3 steps. He'll move an employee 1 step down to the advanced design department, 1 over to this empty space here, and then for the final step he'll move this employee over to the HR department. Now we're on to the activate employees phase, starting with White. He has 2 employees he'd like to activate, 1 here in construction, that'll cost $2, and he'll stand that employee up, and then 1 here in advanced research, that'll be $3. He'll stand that employee up. He'd like to activate this one as well, but there's no more desks available, so he'll have to stay lying down. So White will pay $5 for those 2 activations. Yellow wants to activate 3 employees, all in the construction department. And those will all be $2 a piece, so he'll turn those up and pay $6. Blue has 2 employees he wants to activate. The one in HR is free, and the one in advanced design will be $3. So he'll pay that. To finish up the round, White will advance the human resources marker, and he'll give the gear and the first player marker to the next player. The human resources action is generally pretty straightforward, but White did something here that people sometimes question. He put more employees in the advanced research department than there are even desks available to hold them. But that's fine. The desks limit how many active employees you can have in a department, but there's no limit to how many inactive employees you can have in a department. All right, moving on to the next round. Yellow needs to place the gear, and he'll place it on the management timeline, and that will cause a donation event. Yellow wants to make a donation. This will be his second one since he already has this one here. So he'll pay $10 for that and place a disc here. Blue also wants to make a donation, and this will also be her second due to this one here. So she'll pay $10 for that. And she wants to go on this space that White had claimed earlier, so she'll place her disc there. And White's so short on money right now that he's just going to pass. The mistake this turn was that Blue placed a donation disc on top of an existing disc that White had placed earlier. Your donation disc can only be placed on unoccupied spaces. There is a department that enables you to duplicate a donation made already by another player, but not only do you need to have that department in your company, but it requires sending an employee on a mission during an R&D turn. So even if Blue had that department, this wouldn't have been an appropriate time to use that. Now players can use their management departments. Yellow has 3 management departments, but only 2 currently have active employees in them. He'll start with this logistics department. He could use this ability up to 3 times, but he doesn't want to give up too many cubes, so he'll just spend 1 cube to gain $3 and 1 victory point. So he'll take the $3 and he'll gain the victory point. Now he'll activate his strategic planning department, and he has 1 active employee there, so he'll do it once. He'll take the purchasing department and he'll place that new department on his company board. And since there wasn't an employee in that space already, that'll cost 2 cubes, so he'll pay that. Now Blue's up, and he'll first activate his commerce and finance department. He can do that once, and he'll just keep this employee in place and gain 1 cube. Now he'll activate strategic planning to gain a department. He'll take engineering. He'll place the tile under this existing meeple, and that'll cost just 1 cube. Now White's up, and the only department where he can do anything is commerce and finance. and he has just one active employee there, so he'll just take the 1 cube here. Now players can activate their employees. Yellow has nothing to activate though. Blue does have an employee that could be activated, so she'll pay $2 to activate this one and flip it up. And white doesn't have anyone to activate. To wrap up the round, we'll advance the action marker, and we'll give the gear and the locomotive to the next player. The thing I wanted to call attention to from this turn was that employees don't go inactive after you use them. They would go inactive after you move them. So say if there was a human resources action going on and yellow moved this employee from here to here, then it would have to be laid down. Also, if an employee comes back from a mission, it would come into your lobby lying down. But otherwise, they stay in their active state. So say in this turn, when yellow used this employee here to gain a new department, that employee was able to remain standing. It did not have to be turned down into an inactive state and then reactivated later. Blue has the first player marker now, so she gets to place the gear, and she'll place it on the R&D timeline and trigger an income event in the south. Blue will retrieve an employee from the south, and that will trigger income, and she'll get $5 from the transport track. She'll return the employee to her new lobby. She'll gain a cube from her industry tab. She'll gain another $4 from her commerce tab for a total of $9, including the $5 from the transport track. Now white will retrieve an employee and also get $5 from the transport track. He'll return the employee to the lobby. He'll gain a cube from his industry tab, and he gets $5 from his tabs here for a total of $10, including the transport track. Yellow doesn't have an employee on a mission in the south, so players can go on now to resolving their R&D actions. Blue has 3 R&D departments with active employees in them. The telegraph operators department will just provide a passive benefit, giving Blue a discount when advancing on the transport tracks. So looking at the other departments, she has 2 active employees here for a total of 6 study points, and 1 here for 4 more for a total of 10 study points that she's pooled. First, she'll advance her disc on the west transport track, just 1 space, and instead of costing 4 study points, that'll be 3 because of her telegraph operator's discount. Then she'll advance 1 step in the Midwest, and that'll cost 2 study points instead of 3. Then she'll advance a step in the south, spending 2 instead of 3 study points. She has 3 study points left to spend, so she'll use those all on advancing her industry tab 1 space and place her disc there. On research and development turns like the one Blue just took, a question that comes up a lot is, should Blue be gaining immediate bonuses when her disc enters these new spaces? So for example here, should she have gained 2 victory points when she moved her disc to the space? And the answer to that is no. You'll gain income from these spaces during an income event, and you could also gain that bonus if you place a disc in one of these small cities that gives an immediate transport income. But you don't gain the bonus just for your disc entering the space. Now there is an exception to that, and that is on each track, the final space does have some bonuses that you would gain simply for entering, putting your disc into that space, but those are marked differently. They're marked in the space where you place your disc rather than below it and with the income exclamation mark. All right, white and yellow still get to resolve their R&D actions. White has 2 R&D departments. This one he needs to send an employee on a mission, so he'll take his active employee and place them in the Midwest. That gained white 7 study points here, and then they get 3 more from this active employee for a total of 10. White will spend 4 of those points advancing in the west. He'll spend 3 more advancing in the Midwest. Then White will spend 2 more study points to pull out this Commerce tab 1 space, put a disc on it, and then with the final study point, he'll pull this housing space out 1. Continuing on to Yellow, he also has 10 study points, 3 each from these 2 active employees and another 4 from this one. He'll spend 3 in the Midwest, 4 more in the West, and the final 3 study points he'll spend advancing his industry tab. For the activation phase, the only player that has an employee that can be activated is White, so he'll activate this one here for $3. To wrap up the round, Blue will advance the action marker, and she'll give the gear and the locomotive to the next player. Yellow and White's turns looked a lot like Blue's, but a couple of things that I didn't get around to mentioning on Blue's turn. First is, remember that you don't have to spend your R&D points in the region where there was an income event. Your income was in the south, but it was fine that the players were spending their R&D points in other regions of the map. And also remember that it's fine to split your study points between advancing on the transport tracks and advancing your project tabs. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Now White gets to place the gear, and he'll choose the construction timeline, and that will be an income event in the Midwest. Starting with White, White will retrieve an employee to gain 2 cubes. She'll place that returned employee in her lobby, and then she'll gain $5 from her tabs and 1 more cube. Now Yellow's up, and he'll also retrieve an employee, and that will gain him 3 study points. Yellow will spend those 3 study points advancing on the south transport track. She'll return that employee to her lobby, and from her tab she'll gain 1 cube and $5. Blue didn't have an employee in the Midwest that he could retrieve, so we'll go on now to the construction actions. Starting with White, he has 2 construction departments with active employees in them. White will start with his construction outsourcing department, and that'll allow him to pay $3 to place a project out on the map, so he'll pay the $3. He wants to place an industry project out on the map, and that'll cost 2 cubes, so he'll pay those. And he'll place it on this industry space in New York. Now he'll use his regular construction department, and for that he needs to send his employees on a mission. So first he'll move this one, and he wants to place an industry project again, so that'll cost 2 cubes. He'll place that employee in the south, and he'll place his industry project disc in Pittsburgh. White also wants to place this commerce project disc, so he'll send this employee on a mission and pay 1 cube for that. He'll place the employee in the west, and the disc he'll place on this commerce space in Kansas City. White made the same mistake twice this turn. He sent his employees in the construction department on missions to the south and the west, but placed his project discs in Pittsburgh and Kansas City. Pittsburgh's in the east, Kansas City's in the Midwest. Neither of those regions match up with the regions where his employees were sent on missions. When you're using the construction department, you don't have to send your employees on missions to the region shown on the timeline for that round, but whatever region you send them to, that's where the project disc has to go as well. So after White placed this employee here, the project disc should have gone in the south region, and when he placed the employee here, the project disc should have gone in this region. While we're talking about placing project disc, one thing I should touch on, just because people ask a lot of questions about it, is you don't necessarily have to place your new disc adjacent to another city where you already have a disc. So let's say before White placed this, he placed his employee in the west, and wanted to place a disc out here. It doesn't have to be in a city adjacent to like this white disc or this one. If he wanted to put it down in Seattle, that'd be perfectly fine. And by the way, even though I talked about how White had illegally placed these discs in Kansas City and Pittsburgh, the rules around having to place the disc in the city where you place your employee aren't relevant to that first department he used. With construction outsourcing, you're not sending an employee on a mission, so you're not limited by where an employee gets placed. You pay the $3, and then that project disc can go into any of the 4 regions. Now it's Yellow's turn to use her construction departments. She has 3 active employees, but only has enough cubes to do a couple projects. So she'll send these 2 employees on missions. She'll pay 2 cubes to be able to place this industry disc, and she'll pay 1 cube to place this one. She'll place both the employees in the Midwest. She'll place the industry project in Omaha, and that has the exclamation mark for the transport track, so she'll immediately gain 3 study points, and she'll just pool that for now. And then she'll place the housing disc in St. Paul, and that also has that icon, so she'll gain another 3 study points for a total of 6. Now she'll spend those study points. She'll spend 5 of them to move up in the west, and that'll gain her immediately 3 cubes. And she'll spend her final study point to advance her housing tab 1 space. Now that she has additional cubes, she'll go ahead and use this employee as well. She'll send him on a mission, and she'll pay 2 cubes to be able to place this industry disc. She'll place the employee in the west and place that industry project in Los Angeles. There are a couple things I want to talk about from this turn, and let's talk about the easy one first. People are sometimes unsure what type of projects can be built in these small cities, whether it be the ones with the exclamation mark or the ones that are just blank. Those spaces aren't limited to any certain project, so you can put discs there from any of your 4 project tabs. All right, now we get to the issue that has driven a ton of questions on the rules forums. Recall on this turn that Yellow placed a disc on Omaha and gained 3 study points, but did not spend them right away. Then he placed a disc in St. Paul and gained another 3 study points, and so now had a pool of 6. Only after he had pooled 6 did he start to spend them. He spent 5 in the west to advance his transport track and 1 on his housing tab. A lot of people look at a turn like Yellow's and say that's illegal. And I think that's based on that the rule book says players immediately receive the exact income below their disc position. I think people focus on that word immediately and treat it as, you place your disc there, you gain the immediate 3 study points and have to spend it immediately. And I think that might have even been how it was initially implemented on Board Game Arena. But I think it's clear from the designer's comments on the rules forum that that was a bit too strict. And at least now on Board Game Arena, they do let you pool these points as you accumulate them. And I think that's the correct decision. In other contexts, it's clear that these study points have to be spent by the end of your turn, not necessarily as they're gained. So it makes sense to me that it should be the same way when you're gaining these points through your builds on the cities. I think there's some other arguments to support that interpretation, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Everyone's obviously free to interpret the rules as they see fit, but I think you'll find that for sure on Board Game Arena and in most face-to-face games you'd be playing, most people are inclined to play this as you can accumulate these study points as you place these project discs on cities, as long as you spend them before the end of your turn. Now Blue's up, and she has 2 active employees in construction departments, and they work the same way. So she'll send each of them on missions. And she wants to do this industry project, which will cost 2 cubes, and this housing project that'll cost 1 cube. She'll place the first employee in the Midwest and then place the Industry tab disk in Chicago. She'll place the other employee in the South and place the Housing Project disk in New Orleans. A really common question is, can you put multiple projects in the same city? And the answer is yes. So it's perfectly legal that Blue put this housing project here, even though she already had a project in the city. And at the end of the game, each of those disks do score the points shown under the city. So if it remained like this at the end of the game, Blue would get 6 points, not just 3. You're not just scoring for whether or not you occupied the city, but for each disk you have there. All right, I think I'll wrap things up there. I hope you got something out of the video. If you think I got something wrong or just have a question, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Otherwise, I hope to see you for the next video. Thanks.